Well, today is Friday, March the 23rd, and this is my garden as of this spring. It's been a very early spring, and some of my daffodils have actually already faded. So this is the main display that normally happens about 2 weeks from now. This is the front walkway and what you see from our front door. So let me walk down the front steps. And we can go out and see these are the daffodils that flank the front walkway. Were put in about 3 or 4 years ago. And so some of them have disappeared because of the moisture in the soil rotted the bulbs. So I've had to learn where to put bulbs and where to put plants. But you can see that I underplant a lot so that the bulbs come up and then other plants that bloom later in the summer actually cover up the leaves of the bulbs. That's a little bit of a secret to keeping the garden always looking like there's something blooming, and then when that plant fades, you have to have another plant coming in succession to keep it looking good. So I have a nice variety of daffodils. This is, I planted this in the fall. This is a really nice. Chris, you're going to ask me what varieties I have, and I really don't know. I went this past fall and bought daffodils that are called large cup daffodils, so they really show out. This is a King Alfred, nice and big. And believe it or not, it is warm out here. It's got to be like 80 degrees. And the tulips are already blooming and looking like they're going to fade because it's so warm out here. This is another group of daffodils that I planted in the fall, and I just love the color contrast of the peach and the yellow. Some of the daffodils are fragrant, and so I can smell them as I'm walking through the garden. And you can see that some of my other early spring blooming plants like this carnation are already setting some buds, and the daylilies are coming in. There's another King Alfred. The lacy leaf plant you see there is a columbine. In fact, that particular one is called Yellow Queen, and in a few weeks it'll be blooming. It'll be gorgeous. Our cherry tree isn't quite coming out yet. This is a later blooming cherry tree. But I am going to swing the camera around so I can get a picture of the first year of bloom of the cherry tree that we planted last spring. So this will be a means of comparison for future springs to see how that grows. I have another palette of rock coming, so I'll be able to finish off some more of my walkways. You can see the hyacinths are already gone. They actually lasted for several weeks, and it smelled beautiful out here when I was pulling weeds. We haven't had rain for at least 3 weeks, and you can see what is happening with some of these daffodils and narcissus. It's so warm out here, and with the lack of rain, they're wilting. And in fact, some of the leaves are actually turning brown at the tips. So we're supposed to be getting some rain this weekend, and hopefully that really happens because we need it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to turn on my own sprinkler system. And this is a lovely tulip. I love how it's edged in red. It's really pretty, I think, anyway. And if I go across here, you can see the iris are looking very healthy, and we'll be having flowers on the iris in a couple of weeks, unless it gets cold again. And this is a variegated hydrangea that's coming out several weeks early than what it's supposed to be. And so just taking a look at the garden from the driveway, and you can sort of see a little bit of a blue river garden here, where the blue muscari are is quote-unquote a blue that's supposed to represent a river going through the daffodils. It's sort of hard to see at this point, but when I first planted it, it was very evident and prominent in the garden, but over the last few years it's sort of lost its definition because the muscari keep reseeding themselves, and of course I'm not going to dig them up. So this is the new section of the garden that I put in last fall, and it's coming together. I have some really pretty muscari that are like a light blue. They're pretty. And this is Gertrude Jekyll rose, and it's starting to come out very nicely. I'm going to have to, after I finish this movie, I'm going to have to spray, because the deer have already gnawed down a rose and a phlox. Last night they were out here in force, and you can see their little footprint here. So this is a section that needs to get weeded. I put some Roundup on it, that's why it's yellow. These weeds just grow in mats here over the winter, and I couldn't keep up with it, so, but I'll go ahead and get rid of those and get it ready to put some plants in it. This is a willow that has a very pretty leafing on it with white and pink on it. And let's see, there's another section of the garden that needs to get defined with rocks, but it's getting there. Takes forever, you know. It's pretty to have orange tulips in here. I didn't plant that many tulips last fall because it's just a lot of work to dig in fall bulbs, and you know, most of the tulips don't come back, so it's like a one-shot deal. And I decided last fall I was only going to plant a few tulips and spend most of my energy planting daffodils, since they are reliable and come back. So but here's some tulips that come back all the time. But look at that. Gee whiz. They've only been out like a day or two, and they're already looking peaked. It's just too dry out here. Look at my daffodils. They're wilting. This Lotopeloton is looking really nice. It has red leaves on it, but see how the flowers are. They're like a fuchsia pink, and it looks nice here. I planted it up against the brick wall of the house, so it's like an accent point in the corner, and sure enough, it's doing what I hoped it would do. So that's sort of nice. And you can see the hydrangeas are coming through. And this is sort of funny. There's like 50 tulip bulbs in this little bed here, and I thought they were going to be purple. So much for that. We dug up the grasses that were at either end because they just got too large. So we transplanted them. They're out in the grass in the front yard, and I'm going to be putting some smaller grasses in there instead, and they'll flower in the fall and give this area of the garden some color when fall comes around. It'll take a couple of years for that to get together, but anyway. So this is my little chair that I sit in the morning and enjoy the garden, and so that's about it. It smells nice out here. I think I mentioned that some of these narcissus are really fragrant. I have a mixture of narcissus and daffodils. And so that is it. Just going around one more time because the way things are going with the weather, these tulips and daffodils are going to be gone in a week. It's really going to be a shame, but anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the tour.